That's right, he was in high spirits indeed. One might actually be fooled into thinking that he's actually got good news for us, Bradan, but I highly doubt that's likely. But onto the matters at hand now. I've actually got Mkhuleko Hlengwa, who's from SCOPA, and Andrew remains with me. And I'm going to start with you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. One of the big issues that's going to be touched on, I'm sure, is the tax and the increase of various taxes to help with the government's fiscal stability, or trying to get it stable. Your thoughts on that, and whether or not it is a good direction to go in?
Well, you're going to obviously be burdening those who are already burdened because you've got a shrinking worker base, and so of course your tax generation is quite minimal in comparison to what you would have actually be having. So that on its own is not good news really for South Africans. The issue is that the minister must focus himself on ensuring that he's presenting a budget that, amongst other things, will practicalize the SONA so that we can actually see economic growth and development, so that we can generate the jobs, because it is only then we alleviate the plight and ease the tensions which are already on those who are taxpayers. So there is a lot of work that the minister needs to do. He has to work a very fine balancing act, not to burden those already who are carrying the state for all intents and purposes, but also at the same time there need to be significant tax cuts, which need, not tax cuts, rather spending cuts, which need to take place. We're looking at things here like rationalizing your foreign missions. South Africa's got one of the highest, if not the highest, number of foreign missions. So we need to cut those, rationalize, cut costs. So it's all good and well to say fly economy and so on. Those are all cosmetic changes. They're symbolic. But we need to actually do practical and real things which are sustainable. So it can't just be about the government wanting money from taxpayers, but doing very little itself to actually demonstrate that the money is going to be redirected to service delivery.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, the problem here with the taxes is that we want to increase the taxes that people pay, but revenue collection has declined over the last few years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think, as you correctly say, is the scope for taxing our way out of this debacle that we're in at the moment is very, very limited. There's an economic model called the Laffer curve, which basically says you can increase taxes to a point and increase them any further, and you actually have a decreasing tax yield. And I think we're pretty much there. So tax is not going to be the way to get out of it. And what we would see as a good budget is if the minister focuses on the expenditure, as you say, and meaningful structural changes which have been spoken about before, but we've yet to see the follow through in terms of actual delivery or actual policy responses.
But Mkhuleko, when he says there we need to see a follow-through, I don't know that Minister Mboweni has the political backing from the party to maneuver as boldly as he needs to.
Well, that's the other fundamental challenge, really, that the minister and the president are operating within the confines and parameters of a divided ANC in terms of ideology, in terms of policy direction. That's why there's policy inconsistency and policy uncertainty. And so the pronouncements are changing day in and day out. And so the minister may strike the right notes today, but the political will and the people who must actually carry through the policy direction that he will point to are actually not going to do so. Look at the issue of SAA, for example. The minister's views insofar as that SOE are concerned are quite contrary to the sentiment and policy outlook within the ANC. So one of our biggest challenges really now is an ANC that's going to be able to pin itself down to a policy direction which is consistent with everyone. And so when you look at the SONA as well, I think I was saying pre-SONA that the president must not deliver instead of the ANC address, just the nation address. Here too as well, this needs to be a national budget, and one which is not going to seek to appease and allay ANC anxieties. The ANC really needs to now put the country first insofar as this budget is concerned, and not confine us to myopic ideological outlooks which are inconsistent with our reality, particularly given the gravity of the financial situation the country finds itself in.
So a question from a SCOPA perspective is you've been on record as calling out state-owned enterprises on mismanagement, on reckless management in some cases, and in arrogance in not appearing before your committee, financials not being produced. Should the South African taxpayer be nervous of discussions around state-owned banks, around sovereign wealth funds, given this track record and the concerns that you have?
We've got every reason to be worried. We've got every reason to be worried, given the fact that the track record is not a positive one. But also that too, we must also understand the issue of SOEs at this time in the context of the 9 wasted years of state capture. Because in as much as at the top we are putting the right people, then that is not trickling down to management, to where operations actually take place. So at the heart of the state capture unraveling, we need to deal with the SOEs, and the minister needs to be very bold about the direction that he needs to take. The law enforcement agencies need to walk their talk and ensure that there are prosecutions. The NPA needs to step up. The Hawks need to step up. It's all good and well for us in SCOPA to reveal these things, the Zondo Commission to reveal these things, for allegations to be in the public domain, but there's no investigations, there's no prosecutions, because then what happens is to prosecute a thief 10 years later, there's no recoveries to the state. It becomes, yes, an important prosecution, but what needs to be driving us is to say we need to recover money for the state. So for us to turn the SOEs around and to instill public confidence, particularly in the international stage, is a functional law enforcement agency regime in this country which is going to make sure that there are consequences. The flip side of that is that even internally, these entities themselves need to make sure that disciplinary processes are seen through. And as you point out, SAA must understand that we still want those financials. It's a non-negotiable. It's a prescript of the law, and we're not going to back down from wanting it. So we are giving space and time to the business rescue practitioners to finalize their work on the 6th of March, and then we kick in processes, because compliance needs to be at the heart of the reforms that we are seeking to have in the country.
Mkhuleko, I think a critical issue, very briefly, is the fact that the funding allocations of the budget, I suppose, have not been prioritized adequately, where you are seeing entities like your NPAs, not SARS rather, but Stats SA not getting the funding they need. Would that be another impediment, do you think, to them not being able to carry on with their work as they should be, the prosecutions that you mentioned?
Yes, true. That is a limitation, of course. If you look at the fact that the NPA had 700 vacancies for prosecutors and 3 of the 4 deputy and DPP positions were not filled, and amongst other things they cited that they don't have money, but a cash injection has been given to them. But be that as it may, we need to make sure that the political will and the administrative commitment is there. The one thing which I would really want to warn the minister against is to not throw financial solutions to non-financial problems, because it is all good and well to pump money in, but if we have not changed the systems in which that money must be managed, that's also a problem. So entities and departments and so on may complain that they don't have the money, but the fundamental question is, are they spending the money that they already have consistent with the APPs and our collective national interests? So that is also a balancing act that the minister needs to find. But he needs to be tough. We need to look at under expenditure, and there needs to be consequences for people who are not spending within their allocation one. But also these deviations and expansions of contracts in particular, and the tenders which continue to corrupt the system, are also another area of concern. So it's one thing to complain about not having money, but at the same time we have not seen an active demonstration of that the money that you already have being spent meaningfully.
Yeah, spending money meaningfully, Dan, increasing taxes and so on, as the systems are put right, will never make a difference to the current economic situation.
Yeah, it becomes more than just a money problem. How you manage the money as well, and how you deploy it, and all those kinds of issues around accountability become as well equally, if not more, important. Thank you.